All right, first and foremost, it is Mother's Day 2019. Tell that special mother in your life thank you. And if you happen to be a mother watching my show, happy Mother's Day. Anyway, back around to the shop and life updates. I thought I'd sprinkle in a couple things here. One, I've had 0 hours on the bench in the last probably 5 or 6 weeks. I haven't even touched a soldering iron. Just been too much going on in life. Been getting back to work more, with the heart attack. I'm feeling pretty good, doing heart rehab 3 days a week. And when I'm not doing that, I've been going back into the office. So between that and that kind of wears me out. The evenings not doing a lot. And then the weekends have just been busy. 2 weekends, my daughter got married. There's a lot of activities few weeks leading up to that, and then last weekend we had another audio meetup, which I'll show you some pictures of. But just had a lot going on in the personal life here, and but I thought I'd walk you through a couple of those things. First off, let me jump over here and show you this what I'll call my new listening room I am working on. All right, I've been spending some time as I can on a new listening room. So on the other side of this wall behind me, there's a little hallway, and on the other side of it is a room. It's about 14 by 30. And when we moved into this house, I guess 15 years ago, it was originally the den for this house, and we're in the basement right now. It's a really nice room, kind of walnut paneled walls, a nice ceiling. It's got a nice fireplace in there. And my wife and I, she's not one for the basement at all. Matter of fact, I rarely see my wife down here in the basement. There's a nice room upstairs, probably 25 by 25, that we turned into our den upstairs. And this became forever known as the playroom, so I will probably always call it that. It started out with Little Tykes toys for the kids. As they grew up, it became video game consoles, put this big TV in it, which was, back in the day, was kind of the cream of the crop. Now it's a junky old TV. It evolved over time into kind of pool tables, foosball tables, air hockey, that kind of thing. Then as the kids got older, it turned into the date room. So they'd come here Fridays, Saturday nights. We had big wraparound couches in there. It was the date room. And then after they moved away to college, I started putting stuff in there. It became my kind of premium storage room. I'd bring stuff home from picking, Hamfest, flea markets, yard sales, whatnot. I would put anything old, kind of rough, whatnot, down in the building. Anything that was kind of pristine, I put up here. And slowly over time, it became a hoarder's heaven in there. You had to turn sideways to walk down little aisles, shelving units to the ceiling. You couldn't navigate the room anymore. And finally, even those little walkways filled up, and I was out of room. And so I just told my wife a month or two ago, after I had this heart attack, I said, I want to get my room back down there. So while I had kids home from the wedding, we spent a lot of time moving stuff around, moving a lot of stuff down to the building. I had tons and tons of speakers in there. Moved those down to the building out back. And put up about 28 feet of shelving on one wall and about 16 feet on another wall. And we've just been putting the nice units, stuff I want to keep in my listening room, things I might would demo or let people listen to. Kind of been wrapping around the walls in there. And I've still got a long ways to go. I've probably got 3 or 4 more weekends ahead of me here working on this room. But I'm trying to get the middle of it cleaned out. I'm going to replace the TV, put something up on the wall, put a bench in there that I can put audio gear on, kind of like I've got here in my office. And just get it back to a nice listening room. I bought me a nice vintage mid-century modern chair to go in there. So I'm pretty excited about it all. And oh yeah, check this out. I got a lot of Western Electric tube gear that's rack mount, and I thought, well, why not put it in some racks? So I bought a couple racks, and I've been working on getting them filled up. Here's one of them. You can see I've still got another 1 or 2 to go, but just a lot of having a lot of fun getting the room where I want it. And when we get done with it, I'll show you more as it evolves. All right, this one little topic may not seem that important to you, but I promise you it may be the most important topic I've posted in a long time. directly as it relates to you being a viewer of my channel. Here's what I'm talking about, okay? After I had this heart attack, really got to thinking about my life and the amount of sleep I got each night and whatnot. And I had an opportunity to get a resume to a friend. And next thing I know, I have landed a new role. It's a very similar role. It's the exact same role, basically. It's a vice president role. I'm a chief information security officer. I'm moving from a $1.5 billion company to actually a $5 billion company, so a good bit larger organization. But the beauty of this new role is that the office I'll be based out of is about 13, 14 miles from my house, so 15 minutes away. I don't even have to get on the interstate. It's all back roads to this location if I want it to be. And let me give you a contrast of today. So today, I live in Mocksville, North Carolina. I work in Ballantyne, South Charlotte, 74 miles from my house to the office, which means I get up at 4:30 in the morning, somewhere between 4 and 4:30. I'm out the door 5:15, 5:30, just to get into the office by 7 o'clock to beat the Charlotte traffic. If I don't, what is normally an hour 10, hour 20-minute drive into the office, if I wait another 30 minutes to leave my house, it turns into a 2 to 2.5 hour drive into the office because of the traffic. So I get in the office early at 7. I try to leave the office in the afternoon somewhere between 4:30 and 5:30, which translates me getting home somewhere between 6:30 and 7:30 in the evening. It's always a 2-hour plus drive home every day. The only way to avoid that would be to leave in the middle of the day, 2 or 3 o'clock, or leave really late, 7 o'clock in the evening. So if you kind of put bookends on that, I get home 7:30. I sit down and eat dinner with my wife. We'll watch a little TV, maybe water flowers, things of that nature around the house. And then we go to bed at 9 o'clock. I have to, because I'm getting up then. You know, I'll go to bed at 9, but I'll fall asleep 10, 10:30. I got to get up at 4, 4:30 in the morning, which left me every night getting 5 to 6 hours of sleep, which is not a lot. And it was just kind of a crazy life. And I did it for 2.5 years. You know, you contrast that with this role. I can leave work at 6 o'clock. I can get home at 6:15. I can spend hours and hours. I don't have to go to sleep till 11, 11:30 at night. I can still get up at maybe 7, 7:30 in the morning, still be in the office by 8 o'clock. What that translates into is for the last 2.5 years, I've touched the bench in the afternoons after work 0 times. I've had nothing other than my weekends, which are usually dedicated to the family, and in between there, I'm trying to find things to fit in, like make videos like this. This opens up an entirely new world, takes me back to where I was 4 or 5 years ago, where in the evenings I could come home, spend an hour or two on the bench, still eat, spend time with my wife, and still watch some TV and go to bed, and kind of be on a normal schedule. So stay tuned, much more as this evolves. I'll start this new role the 28th. I do think for the first 2 or 3 months it will mean less time for you guys, because I'm going to have associates that work for me in 3 different states. I'll need to do some travel, get to know everybody, understand the world I own, decide whether I need to make changes or not, those types of things. But after that, should settle back in. I should be based here and just travel as needed. So hopefully that translates over the next 6 months or so into a whole lot more content for you guys. So stay tuned. I'm super excited. All right, last weekend was the second ever Tryout Audio Group Meetup in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. If you're interested in joining us at one of these anywhere near the Carolinas, we have a Facebook group. You can search for Tryout Audio Group. If you don't do Facebook, you could always email me and I could keep you up to date. But it's a great little meetup. Just 20, 25 people show up. This time we had a lot of swap. You know, people brought gear for trade and sell and whatnot. And we listened to a lot of different gear. It was a lot of fun. I just thought I'd flash some pictures up here while I'm talking about this other topic. So while I was there, I got in this conversation with a gentleman about, you know, one thing to strive for might be to make this a self-funding hobby. I reached that pinnacle about 25 or 30 years ago where I stopped taking money out of my personal checking or savings account, and every bit of money I used to buy things with, I had somehow generated via this hobby. And that in a lot of cases meant buying stuff that might be a little out of my swim lane, maybe stuff I wasn't necessarily interested in, but that I knew had value, just for the sole purpose of maybe fixing up, restoring it, to flip and make money off of, to then reinvest back in this hobby. So it's something to think about. When you kind of get to that point, your freedom comes from everything you buy. You really have nothing in, and so there's not a lot to lose. And if you if you kind of get to a place where you are investing in gear and whatnot out of your personal savings, personal checking, that can sometimes bring conflict with your significant other, or your bills or whatnot. So I don't know. It's just one of those things. I wait until I have enough money saved up from my hobbies here, whether it's making YouTube videos or fixing gear or flipping stuff, until I have enough money to buy what I want to go buy, and then I do. So just something to think about. Maybe focus yourself going forward on a self-funding hobby. I thought it was an interesting topic, but at any rate, hope you enjoyed these pictures as well. All right, this is one of the better topics I've been pondering in my head as of late. I'm going to call it the journey from being a shotgun tech to being a good tech. And I'll give you a couple examples, and then I'll talk about my own personal journey. So I was talking to a gentleman here recently, and he basically said, "Hey, Mark, I've got this piece of gear on my bench. I've gone through it and I've recapped everything, and it still didn't solve my hum problem. So what could it be?" Right? And what I came to realize very quickly was this individual was capable of watching a video, figuring out how to unsolder things, resolder things, and in the process swap out parts. Okay? And sometimes the individuals that do this will get tagged with the moniker of shotgun tech. Basically, I'll just swap out parts until I've fixed what's wrong with this piece of gear. And while that's okay, it's not where you want to be in the long term. And I have been putting a lot of thought into this lately. And one of my future goals here on this channel is going to be to take you from being a shotgun tech to being a good tech. And when I say good tech, what I mean is you can actually sit down with some test equipment and walk through a piece of gear, kind of section by section by section, and start eliminating areas that aren't related to the problem. Try to home in on the areas that might be related to the problem, and then actually using test equipment, figure out exactly what is causing the problem. So this whole concept of I've swapped a bunch of parts that hasn't fixed it, what could it be? Well, you'll know what it might be because you'll be able to, through a systematic set of steps, kind of narrow things down until you can actually find the root cause of what is causing your problem. And I will be honest with you, it took me years to get to that. I started out my whole electronics career, I was like 12 years old, and I had my own electronics business. It was called HR Electronics. And what I did when I was 12 years old, I was really good at soldering. I had been doing that since I was about 10. But somewhere around 12, 13, 14, 15 years old, what I was doing was replacing mic cords on CB radios and ham radios. People would blow out the finals in their radios because their standing wave ratio would be high. I knew how to swap out some components, but I had no idea how to sit down and really diagnose something from beginning to end, because all I had learned was just some basic steps of how to swap out parts. Hey, at 12, 13, 14, 15 years old, I made a lot of money. I charged $5 back then to wire up a new mic onto something. And, you'd charge somebody $30, $40 to replace a set of finals or maybe a burnout LED or light or whatnot. I was doing the basics, right? But I had a lot of fun. Then I decided to go off in college and go get a degree in electrical engineering. That's when I learned really what's going on underneath here and what's really happening. But honestly, the electrical engineering degree was really just a foundation for then I built on top of that many years of troubleshooting and improving my techniques and figuring out, well, I could go down this path to troubleshoot it, or I could go this path, and this one is twice as fast as this one, because you just get good at this stuff over time. So what I'm hoping to start focusing on going forward is some more educational videos on specifically how to diagnose problems in gear and how to get to the root cause. I thought I'm going to continue to mix that in with my, things like the 6SN7 build and some restoration videos. But I just, as I look out across YouTube, there's a lot of people right now doing restorations, like X-Ray Tony B and 12-volt videos and whatnot. There's got Brad the Guitarologist, a lot of others that are doing kind of what I would call restoration type work. But what I'm not seeing a ton of on YouTube is the how to troubleshoot and diagnose type videos. So I'm going to try to make that a little bit of my niche going forward, and hopefully you'll enjoy it. I got a video in the workings right now that I'm making, and it's basically how to take a tube amp and start from scratch and kind of walk through it and find what may or may not be wrong with your tube amp. So stay tuned. That'll be one of my first ones up in this series. I'm pretty excited about it because I've been thinking a lot about where do I go next, and is it back to restorations, is it this, that, the other. But this whole troubleshooting, I think, is worthy of both of our time. So stay tuned. All right, we're going to wrap this thing up for today. Sorry I don't have a lot of technical content. It's been just more me talking as of late. I've got to get back to the bench, to be honest. Kind of craving it myself. I am about halfway through this is an in-depth one. If you'll remember my how to calibrate a TV7 tube tester video, I went real in-depth on how to do that with a lot of PowerPoint and kind of walking you through the steps. I'm building the exact same concept video right now for the ICOs 666 and 667 tube testers. So probably another couple weeks in the works on that one, but when I get it done, if you haven't owned one of those tube testers, this video will walk you through a restoration and or calibration of one of those units very quickly. So stay tuned. Got a lot more in the works. So I'm going to venture into this new job, and hopefully in the long run here over the next few months, get back to making a lot more videos for you guys. I got a lot of ideas in my head, and I'll actually have time to execute on more of those. So stay tuned. Thanks for watching, everybody, and happy Mother's Day.